I would just like for everybody to hear this. I have been told by our planner there is some misinformation. I don't know where it came from. Neither Howell nor Glenbrook Parkway is in the under the overlay. So I'm not sure where that information came from. You can double check it. That is not correct. Nobody's home. Some of the, all right, I'm going to leave the floor to you. You're here to speak. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Peter Steck. I'm a planner in New Jersey, and I've been hired by Englewood Community Incorporate to make a presentation and a review of the proposed ordinance. I just want to make sure on the record that Englewood One Community Incorporated is represented by Pashman Stein, and I believe the board already has, by email and hand-delivered, a copy of their letter dated as of today, and I see that you're acknowledging that. And also, I believe a copy of my report, also dated today, was provided. So I'll just give you a summary of my conclusions, and I have hard copies of my report with me should you like it. Thank you. In my opinion, it's very important to have a proper public notice of a rezoning, and this is a rezoning, so that despite the statement of the manager in his August 4th letter that the question was, why is my property being rezoned? And the first response is, your property is not being rezoned. I disagree with that opinion. I would also note that we haven't seen an affidavit yet, but as you know, everyone who is affected in the zone and within 200 feet of the zone, and that includes properties outside of Englewood, need to get a notice by both certified mail and regular mail. I don't know if the complete notice was required. In my opinion, the published notice is deficient, and that is because it only identifies the area by lot and block numbers, and the municipal land use law says that you have to identify it by street names, common names, or other identifiable landmarks, and by reference to lot and block numbers. The map on the fair housing plan is deficient because you can't read it on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. In my opinion, the housing element that was adopted is incomplete. It doesn't consider the 7th point that is required by statute. In my opinion, you are required to quantify the future housing. The fact that you only had a few housing units developed over the last decade doesn't mean that that's going to continue at the same pace, because you're rezoning 131 acres of new land. There is no rationale in the housing plan that says why you picked one area and not another area.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Steck. Thank you very much. Mr. Ragbeer.
Horace Ragbear, 51 West Hamilton Avenue. Before you key me in, I asked many times to bring a visual at the planning board, at the Board of Adjustment meeting, or at the city council. So I brought a visual so that the people could see exactly. This doesn't actually show anything. This is what the zoning is and where it's located. This should be posted while conducting this meeting. Before you do this, could I post this on the wall there so everybody could visibly see it? This is all the highlighted areas.
I don't know.
It should be. This is what we're talking about.
How can we post?
This is what we're talking about. Can I tape it up on the wall?
Have you got tape?
Yes,
because
I do.
we don't.
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
do.
All right, then post it.
It is on the website. Okay.
Put it right in front of her. That's the biggest space.
Horace, Doris, are you finished? Are you finished?
No, I mean,
Oh, you could definitely put it up. Are you finished speaking? Are you finished speaking? Well, please finish, and then we can go on.
This is one of the things I ask for every meeting and we didn't get. Okay, I have a couple questions for the planner, which I don't seem not to be able to get the answers for. Chelsea Glass said they identified the specific neighborhoods. What did you'd use, or what statistic or criteria to identify these neighborhoods? She also used the word conforms. What did she use to see that these neighborhoods conform to the requirements that you guys are asking for? I didn't get the answers for that. You use a lot of words, and this happened with a couple times. Constitutional, community, density, economics, identify, conforms. All of this sounds good on paper, but in reality, is crap. How is this possible that only high density areas is on this map? Mostly high density areas is on this map and nothing more. As I said before, this is why the city is so divided. This is what creates bias, discrimination, and segregation, because you're treating one neighborhood different from the other neighborhood. All right? You cannot do that if you want to say you want a united town, period. I think, and I agree, that this should really be postponed for a later time so that everybody could have the opportunity. And 3 minutes doesn't cut it in this type of meeting.
Thank you, Horace.
Amy Bullock, Howland Avenue. I have a couple of questions. One is, do we know how many of these residential properties are owner-occupied or rentals, and if the rentals are already providing housing to people who may be receiving some form of subsidy? There's at least one person on the planning and/or council who own property in one of these overlay zones. Has that been disclosed, number one, publicly? Number two, it lends to an appearance of a potential conflict of interest, because owning property in the overlay zone could potentially lead to, you know, some type of financial benefit if a developer is looking to purchase your property. So perhaps if not legally required, the moral and ethical thing to do would be to abstain from the vote if you are on the planning board or council and have property in the overlay zone. Lastly, I'd like to say that the planner is here for Englewood 1, and he talked to some really good points, and since he's here, he should be allowed to speak. We as the residents, the voters, the people who live here, have a right to hear both sides so that we can make, you don't have to look at the clock, so that we can make a decision about what we want for our community, where we pay taxes and vote you people in. So I think you need to let him speak, and if you don't want to let him speak tonight, then I agree, adjourn the meeting, reschedule, hold it at Bergen Pack, so that everybody's voice can be heard. Isn't that what transparent government is about?
My name is Doreen Mangar. I live at 73 Glenbrook Parkway. I'm looking at this map and I could see Tryon, Glenbrook Parkway. It's on this map, and you're saying that it's not? No. No? So why is it red? This is a false map? This is a map been circulating all along.
Those block amounts are not in
Sorry?
The block amounts are not
I didn't hear you.
in Those parcels are not in an overlay.
I think you need a box line.
He's saying that those parcels are not in the overlay. I'm just repeating.
It's not.
What you mean? I don't understand overlay. Could you explain what it means? It is in my area. Are you going to develop that area there?
We'll answer at the end.
Huh? Yeah?
We'll answer at the end.
Sorry? Somebody?
We'll answer at the end.
Okay.
We're planning to answer as much as
All right,
we
you
can.
could answer at the end. Now, let me tell you something. My husband and I, we work for humanity. We've been teaching each person for 50 years, 50 long years, saving money. We started out in Guyana. The money was not good. It was chick feed, we call it. We moved to Jamaica. 19 years we taught in Guyana. Jamaica, we taught 15 years. It wasn't much money. You know, teachers don't get money in those countries. We moved to the Bahamas. We were scraping and scratching to save to buy our house. 50 long years. And if you're going to build it, we have an ailing sewer system. You just fixed the part in front of my house where I was flooded out. We were flooded out the last hurricane. Now you're going to put people on top of us. That sewer system is 100 years old. We called the city how many times to clear that sewer system? You put a Band-Aid on it every time. We call you, you put a Band-Aid, and you're going to put people on there? So where's the water going to come? You just fix a little bit of in front of my house there. Where is the water going to go? We were flooded out. We had over 4 feet of water in the basement. The yard was high. So, and then you got to cut down the trees. You're going to cut the trees down. Where's the traffic going? There's school area there. We are already inundated with people racing in our area. You know how many times I sat at my window and I see people racing up and down that street there, and it's just 2 schools there. The park there is broken. Nobody fixed the park yet. I fell at that park and I complained over and over and over. Mr. Cobb went, he saw that part where I fell. It's still broken. Why? No other park like that. That's garbage. That's third world park. Ain't nothing there for children, just babies. You know how many children live in that area? A whole lot. Now you're going to bring more people on top of people? No, that can't work. That cannot work. Never, ever. You're going to do so much in the infrastructure there. We're already populated there. It's not going to work.
Thank you.
I'm Jeff Carter, 30-year resident of Englewood, Cambridge Avenue, also president of the Bergen County NAACP. I rise today, it's a sad day to see, all these people here, and what I was going to talk about tonight lends to this, transparency and fairness in government. You rush this plan through, you're not accountable to the residents. As other people have said at the microphone, you do it under a closed door, bring it to the residents, and expect them to accept it. Not that you all make a lot of money, but we elect you all to do the job, and you're here to represent the people of Englewood. Not yourselves, not the big developers, or anything like that. I guess also lends to the question of why Englewood has so many lawsuits. And it's simply because of lack of transparency, lack of things that are happening. I'm very concerned about the police department, the issues with the police department. We see outside there the Placide family or representatives. We still haven't done that. We've had issues with truckers trying to park their trucks and not being able to. People have to make a living. The police department, we have the PBA versus the FOP. We have a lack of diversity in our police department. When I came here 30 years ago, it was diverse. Today it is not. DPW, this is a right for someone, a resident of this town, to be able to come up here and speak at the microphone, whether they're a union rep or not, whether they work for the city or not. And we wonder why and where our city is going. So to ban a resident, to have a resident who's a union rep be written up because he comes here as a resident of this town to speak up is crazy. The fire department has a lack of diversity also. And we wonder why there are so many lawsuits in Englewood. We need to straighten up Englewood. This is not the place that I came to 30 years ago. I'm gonna leave so that hopefully some other people can come in. But before I leave, and I still have a little bit of time, we should stop this meeting, get information to all the residents, because we're saying false information. Well, that means people haven't got the correct information. Stop the meeting. Former Mayor Huddle has said that we could have it somewhere else. Give people time to get the information, read the information, and have a fair meeting.
Hello, Diane Jansen, 589 Ridgeland Terrace. With respect to the 4,000 units, where did that come from? I was present in the court hearing with my husband when my husband inquired and asked Mr. Szabo of Burgess Associates, what would 100% utilization of the map overlay yield? The response was 100% utilization would yield an estimated 4,000 plus units and 800 plus affordable units. That is in the court record, period. Also, 15 locations identified. He said it was approximately 160 acres. We know it's less now. We know 7 of the 15 locations have lots in the FEMA flood hazard zone based on 1999 data. Now, how did my husband and I get to that meeting with the judge? Where were the rest of these people? I happened to find online a notice that was inconspicuous, many clicks away, that said, here's the settlement agreement, which I had Oprah'd and didn't get, by the way. I found the settlement agreement, and I also, that was submitted to the court on November 2nd, 2022, and I also found the notice of the hearing, and it said you have to write to 2 people. One was Mr. Buzak, I believe, and one was Ms. Gallo, and say that you wanted what your comments were and that you wanted to participate. You also had to hand deliver or mail something to Judge Christine Farrington, who was hearing the case. We found this out on December 5th. My husband had to go to Judge Farrington's court to hand deliver on the 6th, so we made the deadline. And that's how we got to the court that day. And now, you're going to finalize this without these public, our people. This is us. Who are you? Who are you with this overlay? We will be invited to the August 23rd meeting because of that notice that we gave, and we will let them know about the lack of transparency. Thank you.
Beverly Washington. Beverly Washington, Howell Road. I found out about these overlays last night. I think a matter of this importance could have rated an email, not an email, but a letter sent out to all residents of the city so that everybody would know about it. Now, I'm concerned about the Glenbrook Parkway overlay, and I want to express some concerns that I have. There's already a high population density in the area. There are single-family houses on both Howell Road and Glenbrook Parkway with condos in between the 2 streets. There are already problems with traffic and parking. Residents park on the streets along with teachers at the middle school and those who come for special events such as ball games and after-school football practices. There are safety concerns with this area, with adding more housing and traffic. Both Howell Road and Glenbrook Parkway are used by our school students going to the middle school and to the high school. They're walking there constantly. Already last week, there was an incident where the child of one of the people here tonight was hit by a car on Glenbrook Parkway. And people do race through Howell Road and Glenbrook Parkway already. We don't need more population there and more cars. I have some suggestions. Instead of the Glenbrook Parkway overlay, I would suggest using the Liberty School site, which would provide more options for access to larger roads and more access to shopping, restaurants, and public transportation for the residents. And the area around Depot Square might be considered for the same reasons. And briefly, here are some questions. Was the existing population density of each of Englewood's 4 wards considered in determining the sites for the overlays? Was the population density of the Howell Road and Glenbrook Parkway area considered? And is there a possibility that these options and these overlays might progress to a use of eminent domain to require the residents to sell their properties? And has this happened in other municipalities in the state? Thank you.
Hello? Hello. I'm Brenda Thomas, 93 West Englewood Avenue. I'm so happy to see so many people here. And one of the things that I'd like to speak to, perhaps being redundant, but the way this was noticed was definitely insufficient. I was speaking to my neighbor, a fellow landlord who lives in Teaneck. He got no such notification. I'd like to speak to Armory Street. My house is on the corner of Armory Street and Englewood Avenue. When Armory Street was rehabbed 30 years ago, I'm an Englewood native. I'm a 4th generation person living in my home in Englewood. Okay? So, I do believe in what is essentially Englewood, and I'm very concerned about the direction it seems to be taking. I'm feeling that there are parts of our population that are being ignored or overlooked. And I speak to the homeowners on Armory Street who are, for the most part, absentee landlords. I doubt that they have gotten this information. And it concerns me. So I also agree that we need to do a better job of notifying the people who are stakeholders. And there are stakeholders, they may not live in Englewood, but they are creating our community or dismantling it. I don't know. So I do believe we need to make this much clearer, this ordinance. Let's understand what's at stake. And I understand the builder's right, or what is that? The poison
Remedy.
pill? The builder's remedy is really something to be feared. But can we come up with something proactively and creatively as a community, envisioning what the city of Englewood represents? You know, not just looking for ratables, but really providing housing for people. And I have some suggestions. We can talk about that later. My greatest concern about Englewood is how we communicate with one another. I think we really need to examine that. Not everybody has a computer or a smartphone. Not everybody is literate in English and sometimes in Spanish. Please, let's let everybody who's affected by this know what's going on. We have to work harder. And I think the burden is on my councilman. Thank you.
Yeah, Rick Wilby, 289 Plantation Way. You know, as a point of order, Miss Marin doesn't like churches and state mixing, so whose Bible is that? You want to take that Bible out of here, Judy? You don't like church and state, you understand? But the state seems to meddle a lot in private people's business. I want to introduce to everybody, this is Merlene Luncier. Her son, Bernard Placide, 22 years old, was shot and killed by Officer Luana Sharp of the Englewood Police Department in his bedroom. Okay, he celebrated his 23rd birthday on Mother's Day at George Washington Cemetery. He's no longer here with us. He can't be concerned about affordable housing or low-income housing or the return of the pilgrim settler class. We see all over Africa where the colonizers are being kicked out by Africans that say enough is enough. What we have here in Englewood is nothing more than a criminal enterprise where people that sit on this council are in bed with wealthy developers, and their targets is you. Everybody in here that has equity, that has a stake, they don't care. You elect these people and they betray you. Everybody think that a so-called Democrat or Republican is their friend. The taxpayer has no friend. And that's the reason why those people that fled England to America talked about taxation without representation. People keep talking about representation. The council does not represent you, okay? Beyond the council is the real movers and shakers, the power brokers, the people that own everything that tell the council what to do. Just because you see a clueless Miss Marin here trying to do what she does with this meeting doesn't mean she even knows what she's doing. You need to understand. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Don't tell me what your husband owned and all that property, and none of his property being in a zone that's going to be redeveloped is unacceptable. You and your greedy criminal husband. That's unacceptable. You are unacceptable. And please don't interrupt me again, Judy Karen. We go through this all the time, Judy Karen. Don't interrupt me. I'm talking about what's going on in Englewood and the racism that's been perpetrated primarily in the 4th Ward. I've been coming here for years talking about gentrification. Town Center is gentrification. 1 William is gentrification. EVO is gentrification. What's going to happen is gentrification. Nothing is going to happen next to those $1 million homes up in the hill. It's going to happen down here in the valley where black folks live. This is the second coming. This is the second coming of the pilgrims. You understand? So we're all being subjected to pilgrims, so we all might as well consider ourselves Indians today and give thanks. All right? We need to understand what's going on. This woman lost her child, and the officer almost got a promotion if we didn't stand with this woman. You should understand that people are being killed by the police department here in this city. Okay? And nobody's being held accountable. Period. You have a bad night, Judy.
Good evening. Linda Cook, Broad Avenue. I am a resident of Englewood for 60 years. I went to the Roosevelt School, and I saw it change. I went to the Renaissance, which is now the Renaissance building, but it was the Central 5th and 6th. It is now a Renaissance building. I watched the public library go up while we were playing soccer in the field. I went to Dwight Moore, and I graduated there. I had an exceptional education, proud to be a Maroon Raider. I am listening to my community. This is my community, every single person. I grew up in an Englewood that was strong, that was diverse. We loved each other. We loved being in Englewood. What are we doing here now? Why are we changing Englewood? I implore, I beg of you, adjourn this meeting, give everybody a fair chance to speak, to be knowledgeable about what's going on in our city, and let us approach this in a reasonable and moral and fair way. Thank you.
Gail Lewis, Maple Street. I have two concerns here. Firstly, as it relates to flooding, if we put 4,000 housing units, what preparations has the city done to allow for the increased sewage, water, all of that that's going to affect that's going to affect us? I was a victim of Ida. I still have not seen any changes done to the infrastructure. Number two, who's paying for this? You're saying that the taxpayers are not going to pay for this. Who's paying for increased police, fire, DPW, all of that stuff? Down the line, it's going to fall on the taxpayers, especially if the developers are getting any tax exemptions. None of this has been addressed, so I'd like to hear what you have to say on that. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair, and to the legislative body. I'm Dr. John D. Givens, pastor of Shiloh AME Zion Church, 129 William Street, here in Englewood. I'm here to advocate with regard of the issue at hand tonight. And let me be very, very clear. I do not have all the data to make a business humanitarian decision. I want to be clear on that. But what I am clear and come to this mic very humble to ask. We have some issues in Englewood, and it appears that we are adding more on the slate of issue in Englewood. Number two, people are the most precious commodity on planet Earth, not in America, but on planet Earth, people. And I appeal to this legislative body and to the administrative body. Listen to the people. The people elect us. Again, I don't have all the data and the facts, but I will find out. But humbly, don't pass this until your people. Let me be very clear as well. You're not going to satisfy everybody, but let the community, and I speak as one of the spiritual leader in this community, people is the most precious commodity there is. Listen to your constituent. Listen to the people. There is nothing said this has to be done tonight. Cancel it. Get a larger place and listen to your constituent, to God's people. This is not Pontius Pilate court. This is America 2023. As one of the spiritual leader, I humbly appeal to all of you. Don't do it till you listen to your community. Thank you.
Laura Vogel, Marlborough Road, Englewood, 35-year resident myself. Today, before I came to the meeting, I rewatched some of the videos, the webinar, the YouTube video, and I would really encourage everybody, especially the video here on July 20th, because I found it to be extremely informative. I kind of feel like, you know, we're out here between a rock and a hard place. As I understand it, we have to submit this to the court in order to receive our immunity. Is that correct? Is that correct? Until 2025, as I understand it. Is that correct? Yes. So here we are now. And as I understand it, reviewing some of the videos and also listening tonight here, the settlement agreement, was that in November? Was that November or was that January? Easy question here, if you don't know. Is that, what was that?
We'll answer at the end.
At the end, but that's part of my question. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable to me. If that's, and I believe that I heard that correctly, that it was the 22nd. But also, I understand we were in litigation, and I understand not talking about specific details about litigation. But would it be even nice to know that we were in some kind of a litigation as to affordable housing? That wouldn't have hurt at all. And I think people tonight, that we're fearful, concerned about our own properties. Also, look at the map. It's also targeting a lot of commercial properties, like Hudson Avenue, my neck of the woods. And I worry about losing my pharmacy, my bagel shop, our stores, our little hub in the 3rd Ward. So I feel like we're in between a rock and a hard place, that we have to do this. But I think reviewing the video, I think Mayor Wilds brought up the fact that, okay, if we do this, can we still fight it in litigation after we submit this to the court? And I believe you asked that question, and I don't know if it was the planner or Mr. Busak who said, yes, you can. Will we do this? Will we fight it after it's submitted to the court? Yes. To fulfill that, you know, to just go through the motions of that unmet obligation. Will we do that? Will we do that?
Right.
And I'm not going to say who said it tonight, but somebody told me here on the council that the developers are already calling.
Good evening, Council. My name is David Coleman. I grew up in Englewood. I graduated Cleveland School under Dr. McLeod. Graduated JDMS in Dwight Morrow in 1988. My doctors said I shouldn't be here tonight. So I'm going to speak from emotion because many of you know that you know, my family's been going through a health crisis. My wife has been sick this summer, and I have four small children, 2 sets of twins. Many of you know this, who are in what I consider the best schools in the United States. But I had to come because when I was at my doctor's today, she said 2 things to me. She said, you know, have you heard of these blue zones? I had never heard of blue zones. These are areas in the world where people live the longest. She said, do you know what 2 things they all have in common? I didn't. She said, movement, which I could do more of, and community. And it really struck me. I said, I have to go to my community because I will feel better after this. And I know that if I don't hold it together, that I'm with family. And it made me think of what has gotten us through this summer, and it's been community. You know, it's been Mayor Wilds giving my wife a hug every time he sees her, which is healing. You know, Judy, it's watching Quinn, my daughter, play with you all day at the Rotary thing, and basically becoming, she's going to kill me when I say this, your campaign manager in our neighborhood. And she got into a lot of fights in the neighborhood, but not fist fights, but yeah. But you know, that has carried her. The day she spent with you, and then, you know, seeing Councilman Cobb and talking about Englewood history and your mom, and then there are 4 middle school girls who come to our house almost every day. They pick up brooms, sweep the floor, and do dishes and take our kids to the pool. And then Doreen is bringing us remedies from Guyana, and Colette and Donovan. I mean, it goes on and on. And I just don't want to lose that. We need to preserve that. Englewood is, from my perspective, the most unique suburb in the United States. And we have to keep it whole and together. Thank you.
Good evening, Council President, Mayor, members of the council. Valerie Huddle, Highview Road, Englewood. I was not going to speak tonight. I came as a bystander, and then I said to myself, we should never be bystanders, we should be upstanders. But first of all, as a former public official on many levels, state and county, I have held many public meetings. And on an issue this important, Judy, I'm sorry, I would never have that buzzer beeping at 3 minutes. Because some people may speak for 1 minute, some people may speak for 5 minutes, and what they have to say, they may not be able to say it within the 3-minute time frame. There should be some sort of allowances when there's an important issue as this, my opinion. Number 2, I've seen many people come up here and ask questions. In my entire public career, I have never ignored questions. I don't care what the policy is. I would try to have an answer and give the people that are here tonight some information. Number 3, there were a couple people that had the maps of the overlay zone. Quite frankly, I don't have all the facts. And so what I would suggest is that you do a workshop in a place where you can have and vet out what you are planning. There was a planner here this evening to give his opinion. We all have opinions, and we all need to hear those opinions, but the facts speak for themselves. This planner had 3 minutes. There was no way he could present his case in 3 minutes. So what I would suggest, there are a lot of people asking a lot of questions, and none of you have answered. I guess that's your policy. We don't answer. We stay until the very end, and we may share our opinions. I'm sorry. I had a freeholder meeting that went till 2 o'clock in the morning. I broke all the rules because it was an important issue, and I answered everybody's question. People were standing outside. You know, and by the way, I asked a few people, I don't even know how they even knew about this meeting tonight. Thank goodness there's a new outlet now, One Community, and I will give kudos to the people that sent that out. That is how everybody knew. I don't think anyone would have been here tonight because there was no communication from this council. So I will wrap up because I have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it is appalling that that will beep at 1. I'm very disappointed, and I don't think this is how our council and mayor should run good government. This is not good government. You're hiding behind the beeps. You're hiding behind the beeps. Everyone's up there with a poker face, and no one will say a word. We need the answers. Thank you.
Good evening, Howard Schaefer, 87 Spring Lane, Englewood. I'm the Ward 1, District 1 representative to the Englewood Democratic Municipal Committee. I'm a former member of the Englewood Zoning Board. I'm currently vice chair of the Englewood Planning Board. I'm a 22-year resident of Englewood. What people may not realize is that 60% of the overlay zone is in the first ward. I don't know if people realize that. Okay. I can tell you as a Spring Lane resident within 200 feet of an overlay zone, I got notice by certified mail and regular mail. I hear a lot of anger in this room, okay? But unfortunately, I think the anger is misdirected. The anger needs to be directed at our state officials who are dictating this and not our local officials who are trying to protect the city. I understand the predicament that the council is in. It's not an easy position, and I thank you for looking out for the interests of the city. I understand people may not appreciate that you are looking out for the interests of the city, but I know you are. The planning board, pursuant to law, has conducted its consistency review and issued a report to the council. We have made some reasonable recommendations for amending the ordinance, and I would ask that the council take that into consideration in passing the ordinance. Thank you.
James Evans, 341 Washington Place. I am a resident for almost 70 years. Been coaching for the Englewood Junior Football for 31 years. The reason why I'm here, I've been asking that we have our field house get the bathrooms clean, and they tell me that they could use the porta potties over by the pool, and I do not want my kids running out.
Excuse
across.
me. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Running out across the street and get hit. Not that I knew what this meeting was about, but I just came in here to say my word of peace, what we're going to do about it, what you're going to do about it, and if some kids get hit, you're going to be held responsible.
Hi, my name is Darlene Story. I live at 237 Liberty Road in Englewood, and I also have a company, which is Lasting Impression at 333 South Dean Street. My parents bought their home in Englewood in 1958. They were one of the first black families on Liberty Road. And when they found out across the street that they could not get my parents out, a for sale sign went up 2 days later from every single one of those families. And now our neighborhood is so diversified. Right across the street, there's Latino. Right next door to me, Jamaican. Right next door to me, over on the other side, Guyanese. Right across the street, India, Japan. We are all diversified. In the company that I work for, you know, I love Englewood so much that I wanted to stay in Englewood. Did I have an opportunity to have a company someplace else? Absolutely. Am I struggling? Yes. But I'm struggling with all the people that I have around me. And I look at what has happened here, and I literally got notification to know about this meeting yesterday. And that's why I chose to be here. And I think that I expressed that we should have some type of better transparency. I know a lot of people in here have said it. I'm repeating a lot of things that everybody said. So I just want to reinforce that, you know, and it's important, even if it's a letter to every single house. We have the post office right here in Englewood. Have a mail sent out to every single house in Englewood so they know. I didn't know. And all the people on Glenbrook Parkway probably didn't either. So I think it's important that our voices be heard. I know that you probably are trying to do the best for Englewood. I appreciate that. But I think that we also need to know exactly what it is, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I don't understand fully what everything is going on either. And I think that it's important that we dismiss what we have here tonight and have like a larger, you know, arena or auditorium, you know, right there on Liberty School, you know, Dwight Moore, any other school in the auditorium where everybody in Englewood can have a chance to speak and have it a little bit more easier to understand. When I open up this thing and try to figure out, okay, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't understand a thing. And I'm a business person, you know, so I got to read between the lines, and I got to sit there and concentrate. And I'm very good at contracts. I do contracts all the time. So I think it's important that, you know, you speak on layman's terms to everybody so they have an understanding of everything. So that's my 3 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Al Trusty, 33 Florence Street. You know, everybody here, I've had my home for 23 years. I got a lot invested in it. When I got here, my house was trash. I redid it with my own hands. We could do better. Jude, we're gonna do better. And we are going to do better, because see, Englewood deserves. I looked over in Teaneck. You see that big monstrosity over there? We don't want Englewood like that. I looked at this, people are upset over there. I don't blame them, because they walk out their front door and what do they see? It's terrible. We don't want Englewood like that. See, that's why we're gonna vote. Everybody, would you vote? We can do better. I'm telling you, we got it. Because though we're gonna be looking like that, your house, you come out your door and you'll see a big, huge building in front of your house. There's nothing you can do about it, because now is the time to do something about it, because you can't let them do what they want to do. It cannot happen. Now, he said something about New Jersey did it. We can stop what's going on right here in Englewood. We got to stop it, because I'm going to make sure, I swear, every election, I'm going to be on this. Everybody. Because we can't have it. I got too much invested in my house, and that's all I had. I worked all these years so hard in construction to build it, to get something. And so now I'm gonna look outside my door and see that, because it's a possibility. Everybody in here, it's a possibility it can happen to you. And where's your money? All your hard-earned money, where is it? Down the drain. Nobody's gonna wanna buy your house when you got a big monstrosity sitting out there. They're gonna say, no, thank you. And you stuck with it. See, this is why we gotta vote and do what we have to do. Thank you. I don't need these niggas.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Earl Taylor, 127 Glenbrook Parkway. Lifelong Englewood resident, born and raised here. I won't get into personalities because the only people on the council that I actually do know are Mr. Wilson and Mr. Cobb. We grew up together in Englewood, you know, from back in the day. My primary concern is, among others, is the rapacious overdevelopment of Englewood. Glenbrook Parkway was flooded out twice. We were flooded out twice. Back in '07, had a total of 9 feet of water in my basement, 4 and 5. And then in 2021, because of Ida, we had 6 feet of water in my basement. Had to replace my HVAC system, hot water heater, twice, not to mention claim after claim with my insurance company. As Mr. Trustee just said, what we do not want is a huge monstrosity sitting in front of our homes where it's zoned for one single family houses, and then something like one Teaneck Road, whatever the address is, popped up in front of our homes. We, overdevelopment, no place for the water to go, and of course, most of the development seems to be happening in places where whatever the overlay map says, where certain people don't live, people who tend to look like me, okay? So we're asking for sensible, more information, because I don't have all the information in detail on what's going on. I saw I'm on Facebook. I see, try to get little pieces of what's on Facebook. I was here at the council meetings back in the 80s when they tore down half of Palisade Avenue and all of West Street to build the ShopRite Plaza. I had my misgivings then, but I said, okay, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. But now it's getting out of hand, okay? We need to put a halt to this overdevelopment for a variety of reasons. Affordable housing, yes. Where's it gonna go? That's what greater minds than mine need to get together and figure that out. But this current path we're on, it's unsustainable. We want to maintain Englewood like Englewood, not turn Englewood into, I don't know, Hackensack. Now, there you go, Hackensack. That's like Burroughs gone wild. It's crazy. Every little piece of green is being developed. It's insane. Thank you. Thank you.
Arthur Cook, Broad Avenue. I've been a resident of Englewood for 40 years. I actually started my dental career as a resident at Englewood Hospital. And I'd like to bring up a couple of very salient points. The first thing is this is really not a choice that we're being given, and the issue's been decided. I put a quote here from an email that I got from two of our council people, Ken Rosenzweig and Lisa Wysotsky, and it says, we can either accept the overlay zones, fulfill our affordable housing obligation, or reject the plan and leave ourselves open to a worse option of having no zoning protection anywhere in the city. That's what, I believe it's true. But it's a reason why you can't trust anything. The state government and the local government should have the state government should have absolutely no say in our zoning laws. It's up to us. One of the primary focusing themes in the settling of this great country was, first they came here for religious freedom and for the ability to have property. And that property is decided on a very local level. It is a usurpation of everything that America stands for and that we, as a united Englewood, agree with and stand for, that we should let the state come in here and tell us how to run our city. And if the city council isn't willing to go to the mattresses to make sure this doesn't happen, then we're all lost. And another very key item to take care of this, and I think it's important for all of us, present company included, we have to take a lot more interest in who's running for our local governments and our state governments and the federal. Because these people come into power, present company accepted, to do whatever the heck they want, and they don't care about the individual rights that each community has and deserves. And so this evening is something that we should all be very much aware of. This is a closed meeting. It has no relevance at all, because the gun has been put to the heads of the council people here. They have no choice. They have to pass this, otherwise the state's going to totally destroy everything we have in the zoning of Englewood.
Jacqueline Weisner, Cambridge Avenue. And the late spring, early summer, I had two different friends in Englewood owning homes who said they had sewage backups in their basement. And I felt very sorry for them, and then I felt really sorry because 3 weeks ago, I had a sewage backup in my basement. Now, $15,000 later, my finished basement with about 2 to 3 inches of sewage in it was cleaned out, and I said to the people who were working on it, why is this happening? They said, well, your sewage system has a problem. You need to make sure that the city scopes it out, works on it, and what I learned is that the sewage pipe from your home is only 4 inches. And it goes into the city sewage line, which is 8 inches. So all of these 4-inch lines are going into an 8-inch line, and that's what we're dealing with. So before we start adding more 4-inch lines to that 8-inch line, I really think we need to look at our sewage system because it's affecting us. My insurance probably will go up. And you're calling this affordable housing, but is it affordable when your insurance bills are going to keep increasing because we haven't addressed some very basic and standard issues in our city? So I think we need to take time and deal with this because this is August, and for the last 2 years in September, we've had the worst flooding partly because our sewage system was not cleaned out. So let's address that before we start adding to it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Alpert. Not comfortable with speaking in public, but I think it's necessary. I've been at 208 King Street for over about 15 years. I come from Massachusetts, where it was a very diversified town. We didn't have railroad tracks that separated different colors from different people. We had a beautiful community. There was no division. Why do we have that? We had affordable housing that people could be blue collar, they could be wealthy. We all lived together. Since I've come to Englewood, I have not seen that. I'm here because there is no transparency. I was given no notification. I found out through friends. I am looking at the maps. I don't understand it. I need to see this map. When I was living in Hoboken, something similar to this came up, where they wanted to build a huge stadium for the New Jersey Devils on the pier. Well, we finally saw the map as a community. It was posted right in the middle of our community where we could understand it. And once we understood it, we fought to get rid of it. Right now, we have a group of people that you are not showing the zones properly. You are not explaining to us what is going to come in there. And once it's brought down to layman's terms, a lot of people are going to be upset. My house is my life. Single mom, 4 kids. I have put all of my money into my house. When I plan to retire and sell that house, I need to know that I can get something back for it. And every single one of these people sitting in these seats feels the exact same way. We have worked our butts off for our house to be here in Englewood, a beautiful community. If you do this, you will ruin our community. I'm absolutely concerned, and what I call for is a huge map in the center of town calling out every single zone and where it will be, because then we can start the conversation, and it belongs in the Bergen Pack.
Hi, I'm Frances Oberbeck. I've lived here since I was 5. I won't give away my age, but long time. And I recently went down Route 4 to Decatur, and I used to know a Smith family who lived on, one of those little roads. And I always go by their house. Some great drummers live there, and I see this giant green thing. The monstrosity that Mr. Trusty, I was shocked how those people in that house, they destroyed their whole view. It wasn't a great view before, but it wasn't this big thing. What's going to happen? The traffic, the gridlock, I've heard about gridlock in other parts of New Jersey where the other overdeveloped. It's just getting crowded, And then I was going towards Balthazar today, and I see this giant crane before the buses. I don't know if there's a big thing going up there. I just think people have to think about civilization.
I just want to say good evening. I'm Jewel Shears, Forest Avenue, and I just basically going to speak about this is what's going on in our community. 5 stories with a deck, and they're putting a swimming pool up there, which is ridiculous. And then basically going down on the other side, they're still talking about trying to redevelop and put up another apartment building with some stores down there, and then cannabis. Like, we need this. This is basically what this looks like. This is what you see every day. This is what you see every day. And then they have the trucks sitting out there with the cement that's going. So you're now talking about health issues. And nobody's doing anything. Damn crane swings over people's houses. And people are now starting to document it because I told them to, because I'm a photographer. I told them to document it. And we're going to basically start looking into it and really reaching out to people, because this doesn't make any sense. 5 stories? Who the hell needs 5 stories? Every morning, and there's no parking in that area. So what's going to happen is, or they're going to basically muffle that when that goes up and down. So everybody staying there will be every damn morning. This is going to be going off. So do you know what it's like sometimes when you can't get out your driveway because there's nothing but traffic there? Trucks are coming, instead of going the other way, they're coming down your street, and the street is blocked. You take about 15 minutes just to get out of your driveway. Makes no sense. Are you kidding me? Let me calm down. All I'm saying is, something needs to be done, and you don't need to be putting up another set of apartments basically in a residential area.
Good evening, Council. I've met with you before. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry here. And I didn't come here to explain my background, but I do a lot of development consulting, eminent domain work in another state. What I worry about here is that...
Excuse me, could you give us your name?
Oh, sorry about that. Mr. Curry, 173 Central Avenue. Okay. What I worry about here, and I understand the overlay, and I understand the other side. But my question is, if you need to explain to everybody here, if you vote no against this, what will happen? If you vote yes to it, what will happen, okay? If you vote no, will you have developers run crazy in here, buy up small plots here, and make low-income housing, okay? Or will you have the other way, where it may be a federal money, state money together, and everybody hates this, and they'll shake their heads at eminent domain, which can always happen. You'll shake your head to it. I've been on several properties where they say no, and it has happened. You have flood zones here. You have certain properties that are in disrepair. So that's what I'm worried about. I think you should make the people aware, another meeting, okay, and try and explain to them the yes and the no. If you vote for it, if you vote against it, what will happen? One more thing is that the overlay is like a cloud. It's almost like eminent domain cloud. Remember the eminent domain specialist, Robert Moses, Cross Bronx Express. a cloud. That's what you have.
I want you to remember this name, Tarla Coleman Broadnax. Slocum Avenue, Englewood, New Jersey. A very proud, and for those of you who know me, I'm so proud of Englewood. I'm a little confused because if Englewood, as we all see, is the best town in Bergen County, actually in New Jersey, do you agree? Okay. If you look at the residents of Englewood, we are multicultural. I was born and raised here. I'm a cheerleading coach. I've been for almost 30 years. And I'm seeing kids get hit in the area that you guys want to redevelop. Okay? I can't even get you guys to put up a sign, something saying that there's a school zone on Tryon Avenue. I'm a little confused about that too. Okay? I went to Quarrel School. I'm a good old-fashioned Catholic girl, went to St. Cecilia's. And I graduated because I wanted more culture from Dwight Moore High School. You can't get more red raider than me, maroon raider than me. You really, really can't. Okay? I'm quiet now, but I am a force to be reckoned with. I know the mayor, my officer behind me, my man right here, my man right here. I know a lot of these people here, okay? And you see them at everything. I support everything that goes on in Englewood. But I'm hurt because you're trying to change. You're letting people who weren't born and raised here come here and break down my town and my community. And I'm a little confused. I need you guys to take more responsibility. Now, I'm not nasty, but you were voted here for a reason. You were voted here to support us and help take care of my community, our community. So I don't understand why you're trying to change it, okay? I heard the coach say something in regards to the bathroom. I coach every Tuesday and was doing it on Thursday. I can't even get to the field house to send my girls to the bathroom because it's so disgusting. All right? I need the community of Englewood to support our kids, give them the joy that I was raised with, because my father had his own business here. I don't know why my parents picked this place, but they're happy, they were proud, and I'm just as proud. But I need the community and everybody else to support. I need you guys to support us. You got me? You got this name, right? Because I'm not done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to talk today either, but I did see two people from the community come up and talk about what you're doing for the youth as far as the football field for the field house.
Name and address.
I'm sorry?
Your name and address.
We need your
My name is Mikhail Tyre. I'm at 260 Central Avenue. So I grew up in this town as well. So I see all this development talking, but I've never seen anybody talk about what they're going to do for the kids. There's no recreation department here for the kids to go play, have a good time, stay out of trouble. I volunteer for the past 15 years at Teaneck Recreation Department. People think I'm from Teaneck because there's nothing for Englewood. I'm willing to do whatever it is for my town, and for now, you want to put up apartments and push us out. You're talking about everything to put money in people's pockets, but not doing anything for the community. What's going to happen to these kids? They're going to just walk around, run around. There's nothing here for them. There's absolutely nothing. You want to build and build and build. You want to bring up Englewood. What are you doing for the kids? How are you going to make it sustainable for people to stay here and want to stay here? You're going to bring people in and do what? What are you going to do with these buildings? You're not doing anything for the town. Everybody's come here talking about protecting their home because they want to protect the community. We are people that come in full force after one day of finding out about this meeting. I'm here, people are standing outside, it's because we care. You made it in your mind today that we weren't coming out. You had 20 copies of those papers. That was it. Because you didn't expect anybody to come because you look at us to say that you're going to control what we're doing. But today we're telling you it's not going to be that. We're going to be controlling the narrative. We're going to spread the word. We're going to continue to push this and push it as far as back as we can. Because we're not going to let you guys keep doing this, not doing anything for the community, not doing anything for the elderly, nothing but building, and doing nothing but put money in the big people's pockets, don't care about everybody. I care about everybody here. I wish I could do more in this community, and I'm sad to say I do everything in Teaneck because there's nothing here for Englewood, nothing at all. 15 years, I don't get paid a dime for it. I go from November through March. They have a great program over there. Why can't Englewood do it? Why can't we do it? Why can't the field house have a proper bathroom? Why does the girls have to worry about going, maybe squatting in the bushes is better than going to the places that they're trying to have them go? You guys do not care about these kids. You don't care about a community, and it shows because now you're trying to do this underhanding thing, and we're not going to stand for it. We're going to stand up. We're going to tell the community, and we're going to fight this.
Hi. Jack Silberman, 320 Murray Avenue in Englewood. Hi, Judy. I have very anticlimactic comments. Everyone was speaking very eloquently about some intense subjects here. I just wanted some minor things that I've asked about in the 3rd Ward, specifically, well, the first one is that sign on Liberty and Hudson. I've asked for 6 years at various council meetings.
We'll address that, Jack, I promise, at the end.
Okay. I mean, I thought I'd ask about that.
Don't waste your 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, well, all right. And I'd like to have that taken care of and taken out. And the other thing is I'd love to be able to, and I've asked for this in the past, to get a street cleaning schedule, at least nothing intense, not with signs, but just something so people understand generally when they can move their car that there's a good chance that they're going to have the trucks going through. They've said that they were going to be doing that, but you're waiting for some trucks to be repaired. That was on they were going to be doing that. I think that would be a really great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Hello, Kia Motley, 246 Central Avenue. I didn't come to say anything. I am not prepared for this. I just want to say we are in 2023. The most updated thing in this room is that clock. I don't understand how we have been through COVID. I am an educator. I had to virtually teach, yet these meetings are housed in this tiny room that has a sound system from 1972. There's a bigger problem. I just looked at the billing and everything else. You got a bunch of money that's got to go to Verizon. If y'all don't update this system to make this more compatible for people to be at home and see these meetings. I have seen Fort Lee Town Council meetings my entire life on television. But we have these meetings here. Listen, this is my first time here, and unfortunately now y'all have a problem because my schedule changed, so I don't have nothing but time. I am a lifelong Englewood resident. I know you. I've never seen some of y'all before in my life, except for when your flyer is out on the street to get voted on. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't vote for some of y'all. So the thing is, transparency has not been the case here. If y'all wanted this to happen, I found out about this meeting while I was in class at noon today. I haven't had dinner. I finished my class, I took a nap, and I came here because this was important. While they're saying there's nothing here for the kids to do, they're right. As an educator, I'm actually appalled that y'all sat through this entire meeting and didn't answer anything, because if I did that all day, I'd lose my job. I believe I've educated your son, Mr. Wilson. So I couldn't sit here and let my former students come in and not say anything. But it is 2023. If we don't get somewhere with cameras and updated sound system, this should be on Zoom. This should be on the website. No. It should be on the website. It should be on YouTube. There's all types of platforms. It should be on Instagram. It should be on the Facebook page. There's way too much technology for this room. I have more technology in my church building than is happening in here. It's unfortunate. So, what's that? YouTube. It's from there?
Don't talk about church with Judy. She don't like church.
Oh, listen. I'm not going to let him get me started. I got 20 seconds left. I'm going to run out my entire time because, like I said, that's the most updated thing in this room, so I'm going to make it work. So, yes, listen. Get to know the face. My hair will change. But apparently I'm going to be back because we got a problem and we got to get this situated. And if y'all don't do it the correct way, we're going to have to move y'all out of these seats.
Lucy Walker, Washington Place, Englewood. The overlay zone. I have not read anything yet that says it is written in stone. Nothing yet. So are you telling me there cannot be any changes to this? Because this is what the people are here about. The overlay zone. Plus, we want to know who put it together because we don't accept that the city planner did it all by himself. Okay? Can the overlay zone be adjusted so that it most represents the people of Englewood, the people who are here speaking to you? That is the question that is on most of our minds. I was here when they built Rock Creek. I was here when the lawsuits against Rock Creek were being pushed all over, okay? Affordable housing is necessary, but I also participated in every single one of the 2014 master plan workshops. And I know for a fact, because I have notes, and if you look at my blog, some of it's on there, I have photographs of a lot of people who were there, okay? You can do better. I'm not impressed. Thank you.
Council President, will you give me 1 minute or 45 seconds? Your choice.
Let's see if anyone else wants to speak.
Is there anyone else who has not spoken?
Let the man speak.
I just asked.
Be nice to the Council President.
All I'm asking is there anyone who wants to speak who has not spoken yet? Go ahead, Mayor Huddle.
Then this is the list.
And then we're going to close.
Good afternoon, good night, Mayor Weil, council members. My name is Augustine Latouche. I reside at 256 Tryon Avenue, right across the street from the soccer field. And I must say, the draining system in Englewood stinks. Every time it rains, I get flooded. I'm out there in the rain, in the night, cleaning drains myself. The drain comes from Knickerbocker, runs all, like shit goes downhill. I get all the shit. And I have to call for the sewer system to be clean. Every time it rains, I understand, it fills up all the time. But you guys got to get the infrastructure together before putting this goddamn project in place. We had enough. We had enough. That's why we are here. Please listen to us. We are the backbone of Englewood. We built Englewood. All the citizens here, listen to the people. For the people, together, we will stand and rise and make this place a better place. We got to do better. We need to get the sewer system clean out. Number one, the creek, back in '97, I had to go save 2 kids from that goddamn pool across the street. My name is Augustine Latouche. Check your records. Same way you guys have to get your records together for building this infrastructure. The lady talked about a bathroom for the kids. I'm across the street every day picking up garbage across the street. You come down Teaneck Road to Englewood, to Tryon Avenue.
They have sleeping policemen there, right next to the school. I'm in there every day, flagging down the damn cars. The sign that should come on in the nighttime comes on in the daytime, right? So the nighttime, it says 25. You needed to, please, get this addressed. The kid's gonna get hurt. I'm out there every day. You need to get the sleeping policeman from Tryon to the school. There is nothing there, okay? The lady talked about the young ladies in the bathroom. There's no bathroom there for them. They put the policeman right on Glenbrook Dam Parkway so the kids can go to do what they gotta do. It's a shame. You guys gotta do better than that. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay. This is our last speaker, Mayor Huddle.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman, Council President.
It's
Mayor.
okay.
I will keep it very short. In my humble opinion, there's mistakes made. And I don't believe you should act tonight and make it worse. Englewood one community hired Pashman, Stein, Walder, and Hayden. They didn't have an opportunity to speak. We engaged a planner. Mr. Bailey, this is a land use application. If not, Mr. Gorman would not have sent the notices. We have a right, the people have a right to be presented. The letter that went to the council via email and then hand delivered at 3:50 today and emailed at 2 o'clock provides a letter from Pashman Stein on behalf of Englewood One community on the reasons why this ordinance is defective. The planner also provided a report that was provided to you, and that report and that letter requires, I would think if I was sitting on the other side of the table, consideration, because there are flaws and defects that are going to result in litigation if you act on the matter tonight without any consideration of what was presented. For the record, the letter from Pashman Stein and Peter Steck's planning is incorporated in this transcript and should be distributed to everyone. Now finally, Mr. or Councilmember Rosenzweig, I ask you and Lisa Wasowski, if you're going to communicate as official capacity, but don't send emails that make no sense, and I'm sure you're going to say that. But a couple of people asked, what happens if you vote no? There is a resolution accepting affordable housing requirements and to do a better job. I've never seen a court simply say that in light of the record at the planning board. The record, I asked Mr. Bailey to read all the record. So I will end. There are solutions that we should work together. You could do that, Mr. Bailey, through my law firm. Okay, secondly, that planning considerations warrant under a land use application before the Board of Adjustment or the planning board. That's what this is. The planner was trying to say that, but he was shut down. And I will end, this is really wrong. So why don't we just take a breath, pause, and let's just get it right. Otherwise, we will all proceed accordingly. Thank you.
All right. I am now closing the public hearing. Bob and John, I'd like to answer some of the questions now, as we said we would. Would you like to start?
Yeah, we'll just give us 10 seconds and we'll go.
All right.
We'll make sure we have our list. I've got a list here. Is that? All right, good. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We'll go. First, we'll answer the technology question about, and that's in this room. The council had authorized an ordinance, and so we have ordered new technology for this room. So we will have a more state-of-the-art audio-visual system. So for some time in the future, but that was something that was recently ordered. There was other questions. So
what's the future? How long does it take?
We've
just stick to the ordinance, please.
Yeah.
Excuse me, we asked,
Okay, just let. All right, so it was recently ordered, it's what? 6 to 8 weeks out. All right. All right, what was the first question that you had?
I think you need to use the other mic, John.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna stay here.
Bob.
There were a number of issues that were raised, and I'll do my best to address them. Thank you. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. I'd like to address first the 4,000 units. Yes, I answered a simple question. It was posed at the fairness hearing back in January. If we did all of these overlay zones, how many units? I gave a simple answer. Well, if you do the straight math, 4,000. Yes, I'll talk as loud as I can. So I answered a question, and all I was asked was how many units? I didn't delve at the fairness hearing into site plan issues, zoning, impervious, all the things and controls that go into an ordinance, which are presented in this ordinance that's on for public hearing tonight. What I answered was a simple question: how many units? And that was all it was. Now, I explained earlier how that is not reasonable, nor is it realistic. It's treated differently as unmet need under the regulations for a reason. It's not going to happen to the degree that the obligation is there. Where does the obligation come from? The obligation came from the courts. The obligation came from the constitutional mandate that the Supreme Court put on every municipality in the state of New Jersey, that you must affirmatively address affordable housing. And then they created the Fair Housing Act. And all of this, by the way, is on the websites. It's all under affordable housing. The presentations, the plan, the settlement agreement, the map is there. Everything is there. It's all been posted. So every municipality has this obligation. And I take issue with the process. The number is ridiculously high, especially when it's applied to a city that is developed and has no available land for future development. But the obligation doesn't go away. And it's an unrealistic number, and we treat it as an unrealistic, expectation. But you have to provide some mechanisms. So the overlays, I think someone had described it as a cloud. It's a pretty good description, because what's underneath it still stays the same. The overlay doesn't happen. It gets triggered when the certain things happen under the ordinance, and it goes through a review process. And there are controls in the ordinance to say that this has to be done a certain way, and it has more controls in it than your current zoning has for your other multifamily zones. We made sure that there were architectural controls. We made sure there were setback controls. We made sure that there was impervious coverage, open space controls. All of those things were incorporated in, which, if you look at your zoning ordinance on the other zones, do not exist, but they exist for these. All of that's going to affect the number of units, if any of those get built. So it's an expectation, it's an opportunity, but it doesn't have to happen. There is no condemnation contemplated. Look at the plan. It doesn't say anything about taking property. The municipality, the city of Englewood, is not going to go out and take your land, nor is it going to use public lands to build any affordable housing. There's a requirement that the city facilitate a 25-unit development for 100% affordable through nonprofits. And if it doesn't happen, there's no penalty. We made sure that there's no obligation on the part of the city to even pay for that. There's some seed money for conducting the hearing, the meetings, the notices to the RFPs, for example, to the nonprofits. But that comes out of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That is not coming out of your pocket. Yes, it is. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund is funded through a fee that is, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is funded through building permit fees and commercial development fees. There is no tax line in your budget that says affordable housing. All right? So that's the bigger picture. There's been a lot of talk about transparency. I couldn't agree with you more. the process has been turned on its head. Why? How? And when I presented this to the planning board, I explained this. There are a number of rounds through the Fair Housing Act that have gone before us. Rounds 1 and 2, where we went through these cycles of affordable housing planning. And what would happen is a organization called the Council on Affordable Housing, which was created out of the Fair Housing Act, was responsible for producing numbers for all the municipalities. Those numbers were published. They were debated. You have the administrative procedure rules, 90-day rules. I mean, they obtained comments. And then the municipalities with these transparent numbers went and planned. And then you submit your plans to COA, and they would approve them. Or they didn't, depending on whether you comply with the regulations. And it was a public process, as it should be. There was discourse, discussion, and it was a public process. Planning boards got the numbers, and they went and planned. What happened? The Supreme Court, on the third round, dissolved the COA. COA is no longer responsible. They took away because they said that they were not effective. They were not doing their job. They didn't adopt the right regulations. So the Supreme Court took the power away from the agency that was created under the Fair Housing Act and took it upon the courts. And the only way you can get certification that you're in compliance with your third round obligation under the Constitution to provide your affordable housing was through litigation. All of this now turned on its head, went into litigation. So the process changed. What happens when you file a lawsuit? It then comes under the cloak of the judicial system. It goes into executive sessions. It goes into negotiations. It's not a public process at all. And there's no opportunity for a public process, really. And so that's what's changed. And that's what I personally, as you should, object to. But that's what's happened because of the failure of the legislature, the failure of the COA to get their act together to do what they had to do, which forced the Supreme Court to do what it had to do, which was to take it away from them. So that's why we're here. You think you're the first municipality that's gone through this, and people say, where did this come from? It's because of the process. But here's the problem. We have to negotiate in court with Fair Share Housing Center because the Supreme Court gave them status, intervening status, on every application for certification of affordable housing. And their advocacy group, and all they care about is how many units can we get here? And they squeeze you, and we fight back, and we push, and we negotiate, and we go through all this in court. And then finally you arrived at some kind of a settlement. Once that settlement is approved by the governing body, because they're the responsible party, because they're the ones that had to file the declaratory judgment action. Okay, it's a legal action. Planning boards can't do it. Governing body has to do it. Once that happens, then there's a fairness hearing, and then now you have to implement the settlement agreement. That's what this is doing. It is implementing the settlement agreement. And what the plan does is it creates opportunities, but when you think about it, how many of these units do you think are really going to be built, if at all? So that's where we are. Now, what are the consequences of not doing this? It's called builder's remedy suit. City loses its immunity, because right now we are enjoying immunity. What that means is that we cannot be sued under a builder's remedy suit. No developer can come in here and say, I've got a 5,000 square foot lot, I want to put 300 units on it. They can't do it. They're barred from doing that legally, as long as the court maintains immunity. But the court can withdraw that immunity at any time if they feel that we're not doing what we should be doing to comply with the third round. What happens when that happens? I explained that at the public hearing for the council understands it. The planning board understands it because they understand what a builder's remedy is. But what it means is that a developer can come in, the city of Englewood's not satisfying its obligation, we're going to do it here, and it's viable. Doesn't matter how big, how wide, the court's going to say, put it there. We have a viable project. And that's a simplification, but that's what happens. And that's where we're at now. I will tell you that you lose absolute control. Absolute control. If that's the preferred alternative, then you'll be back here complaining that there's developments going on that are uncontrolled. I'm answering for a moment.
No, please.
We have
No. Go to the Englewood Cliffs case. Same judge we have. They lost immunity. They dragged their feet. They fought, lost. Remember that what happened was the Supreme Court.
Excuse me, please let John finish.
What you try to do, as with any settlement, is get the best settlement you can to protect the community. Now, I know you don't think that this is doing that, but it is, because I'm sorry, I don't think 4,000 units are going to get built in 2 years. Once, it's not realistically, it's treated differently than the realistic development potential that's in the plan. The problem we're dealing with is you have no land to develop, and you have this enormous obligation. Where did the obligation come from? A court decision. And that's the basis for all of this. And we're stuck with that number. So the city can walk away and say, we're not going to do it, but then you're going to be facing builder remedy suits all over the city. And it's happened elsewhere. So what towns, and you're not the only one, towns are going to the courts, getting their judgment of compliance and repose so they can be protected under their plan, so they can steer where they think that it should go. Okay? It's not fear-mongering. It is reality. It is the truth. Now, you can choose to believe me or not. That's up to you. I'm not here to debate or argue. I'm just presenting to you what I think are the facts that you need to understand. And if you choose otherwise, that's your right. I understand that. It's a public process now. I wish it was from the beginning, but it's not.
Excuse me, John, because this is the other side of her question. You're saying, if we pass this, we're saving ourselves from, losing our immunity and opening ourselves up for builders' remedy suits. Now, what happens, let's say we pass this, and we move on to the fourth stage. Can we reverse some of the planning?
What I have suggested, and what I have said to the planning board, and they understand this, is that your 2014 reexamination, or master plan, for example, is required to be reexamined next year, in 2024. It has to be done every 10 years. Get your judgment of compliance and repose. Spend the next 2 years in a public process. Let the planning board look at this and say, here's how we need to do this. Now, can settlements be amended? Can ordinances be amended? Yes. But you can't just do it unilaterally. The settlement agreement's like a contract. All the parties have to agree. So you need to then come back to the court and get court permission through Fair Share Housing and the court master, who's also a planner. And they say, oh, that makes sense. We could amend the plan. We have done that. And it can be done. The problem we have here is the timeline that we were forced to accept by the court. The court imposed the deadlines, not us. The court makes that decision. So, yes, can there be changes? Yes. Can you do it unilaterally? No. Now, in the fourth round, there'll be a whole new set of numbers. God forbid, but it's coming. I have no idea what's coming because the legislature's not doing anything. We have no numbers for the fourth round. I don't know where it's going. No planner can tell you that. So you have an opportunity between now and June 30th, 2025 to do your planning for the fourth round and possibly modify the agreements that we have in place today. This was to get us to immunity and to a judgment of compliance and repose. That protects you for 2 years to the end of the third round, which ends June 30th, 2025. So there's a whole strategy here of coming up with a plan that exposes you to the least amount of development, to afford you the opportunity to take time for the next year or so to plan out what you want to do into the future in a public process. When I read the 2014 master plan, and I read it all the time because I work with the Board of Adjustment, there was a tremendous effort at public outreach. I anticipate and I would encourage the same process where all of you would be invited to do charrettes, public forums, say, here's the situation, let's talk about how we can address it. We weren't afforded that possibility, that opportunity under the current circumstances because of the litigation and because of the constraints the court put on us. That's what we dealt with. This is not something that the governing body embraced. Hardly. This was debated, argued, The same upset that you are expressing tonight was expressed by the governing body. How in God's name do we do this? Why are we here? The same angst, because it's not, they didn't embrace it. But what did we do? We don't allow the developers to run amok. We have to control it as best we can. So the ordinance provides those protections and controls with the understanding that there's no obligation to do anything. It's not a realistic opportunity as a RDP. It is unmet need, and it's treated differently under the regulations, and I just want to emphasize that. You're not at risk. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you there may not be, no development. There may be some. I can't tell you how much. That's why the 4,000 units is not something I can fathom, given your situation, given the permits, given the development. But that's where we are with that. In terms of flooding,
Please let him finish.
now flooding was raised. A couple of points on flooding. We imported FEMA flood maps, the metadata, into our GIS system, which is a computer mapping system, into the parcel-based map for the city. 4.1% is exposed to some flood. 4.1. Not all the wards, or not all the sub-areas, the districts, a very small proportion of that. The sites are developed. Now, they're already developed. We're not taking virgin forest here. These are developed sites. Engle Street, for example, is fully developed. DEP is the controlling agency that has jurisdiction over flooding. DEP is going to make sure that if you don't meet our regulations, you don't build. If you're in the floodway, you can't build. That's another part of the how this was strategized, but we didn't put people in harm's way. I also mentioned to the planning board that part of your big flooding problem is your infrastructure. We heard infrastructure tonight, right? We heard about the sewers, the water, everything. And because you have an old aging infrastructure, it's old. As properties develop, they have to upgrade. The developer has to pay for the upgrades to the sewer, to the water, to all of that. They need to do that because they have to meet current code. Current stormwater management regulations in the state of New Jersey is among the toughest in the country. You can't just pave something and let the water flow into your neighbor's property. It's against the law. It'll never happen because there are strict regulations that take into account changes in runoff, and there have to be reductions in runoff. Sewer lines have to be put in. That have to be sized properly based on current storm data, not storm data from 1899, which I will submit to you, nobody put in drainage 100 years ago when it was being developed, the city was. Very little. And if they were, it wasn't to a storm standard that we need today. So all of that that's part of the redevelopment process, if it even happens. DEP has jurisdiction, infrastructure gets upgraded. I sit with the city engineer, Mr. Volsi. Not a drop of water will come off that development. That doesn't mean that's...
Don't do that.
I'm only telling you what I think and what I professionally understand and what I experience. Whether you agree with me or not, if you think it's BS, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to inform you. You can disagree or not. It's up to you. You're free people to decide for yourself. But you need to know the facts. Okay? Some other points. There's no condemnation or municipal obligation to actually build units. If I addressed what happens if the vote doesn't happen, can overlay zones be adjusted? The answer is yes, but only with the consent of the court. And going forward, you can make other changes. And as long as they're positively addressing your obligation, it's generally not an issue. I've had municipalities tweak their plans. But we don't have the luxury of time. I will tell you that we have a compliance hearing on August 23rd. The Fair Share Housing Center, the court-appointed master, who is a planner, have indicated that everything the city has done up to now, including this overlay zone, is acceptable to them, that it meets the obligation, constitutional obligation, that it is acceptable to them. It will be acceptable to the court. So it's reasonable to expect that the court will issue an order of compliance and repose on August 23rd. They are fine with everything that's been submitted because it satisfies the language of the law. Do they expect 4,000 units to be built? No. They understand that it's unmet need, but you provide the opportunity. But I've been saying it as a mantra, not the obligation. It's treated differently. So that's where we're at right now with all of that. So how did the zones get created? What we looked at was where there were existing multifamily zones and existing developments. We kind of continued the pattern there. We took Engle Street, for example. It's all developed. With what? Apartments. They accepted it. Okay. The inroads into some of the streets, because they are sandwiched in areas that already have multifamily or abut your multifamily zones. But what does that mean? Most of the areas that we're talking about, that you're concerned about, have a density of 15 units to the acre. But you need to have, but the minimum lot size is a half acre. It's in the ordinance. It's no secret. That's 7 units. And by the way, the ordinance provides also for townhouses. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a 3-story apartment building. You can maybe come up with something that could fit the neighborhood through a townhouse setting. It allows for that kind of flexibility, but you still have to meet all the standards, and you can't build more than the ordinance allows. So that addresses kind of how we came about this. The corridor of Long Palisades Avenue has multifamily zoning on it. Care One was on that, was looking to build over 300 units. They came back with 200 units on their property. The overlay gives them 15 units to the acre, nowhere near what they were looking for. And the court accepted that over their objection. We pushed back on that, pushed back on a lot of things. We wanted to keep the zoning density at 12 throughout the entire city. That wasn't going to be acceptable to the court master or the Fair Share Housing Center. If you don't get their concurrence, you're going nowhere. Remember, the judge is appointed by the Supreme Court specifically to address affordable housing. There are 13 vicinages that were created as a result of the Supreme Court decision, Mount Laurel 4, that disavowed COA. These judges work for the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's goal is to implement the Mount Laurel Doctrine. That's what they care about. So if you think you're going to go through a trial and prevail, ask Englewood Cliffs how that worked out for them. So what happens is that this process gets repeated in all the municipalities we represent. And again, nobody embraces it, but it's all about trying to direct the development to where you can at least control it. And that's the whole point. And nobody likes it. Nobody embraces it. But that's what the situation is, and that's what is called for right now. So I don't know how else to put it. I went through the obligations. I went through the numbers. It's all available. And it's all, the purpose of which is to protect the city.
Excuse me. This is not a discussion.
And
excuse me.
Please, please, please.
You can't.
Please.
I will,
John, please, we have a format, we have to keep it. There's an.
People came here because we want to be informed.
You.
And I'm sorry you have to forget about your format tonight, because we are here now and we want answers now.
So, John, there was a question of 305 versus 306. Was there a typo with that?
it's a Scrivener's error, yes.
Okay.
It's 306.
All right.
And we have to just
Is that going
address
to be a
that.
problem to fix that?
No, it's what's known as a Scrivener's error. I let Mr. Bailey address, how that's handled in courts, but generally speaking, it was just a typo.
May I ask, Tom, there was also a question on Ordinance 2320 where there is not a tax, but there is a fee to residents of 2.5%.
No.
Or the 1.5% if their house goes after evaluation.
No. Mayor, the way that works, that's called your Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It comes out of the ordinance. You already have it in place, by the way.
I know that. I'm not talking about commercial development.
Commercial,
I'm talking about residential improvements that are made in their home. If they increase the assessed value over 50%, then there is a 1.5%.
As part of their building permit.
as part of the building permit.
Correct.
But until this was there wasn't that obligation before. So it looks like a tax, and it smells like a tax, but it's not a tax?
It's a fee.
It's a fee.
It's a fee.
But they're paying, and, all right.
Do you want to say anything?
Which is in your ordinance now.
No, I understand that.
It's already there. You've collected over $1 million in affordable housing trust funds in this way. So this has been ongoing.
But it'll have a stymied approach on residents wanting to make improvements if they're gonna get that assessment.
Yeah, let John finish, then.
All right, well,
Engaging.
if it meets the threshold, then it's required, because you need to fund a rehab program, and that's how you do it, through the Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay, we're going to allow the members of the council to also pose questions to you at this time.
Well, if I may, procedurally, the elected officials, there needs to be a motion, a second, discussion. Okay, that's when that occurs. I would let Mr. Szabo finish responding to some of the questions that were raised by the public. Then, if someone is willing to make a motion to move the ordinance, there needs to be a second, then discussion by this body.
Okay.
Because if we
will
don't
have
follow the
another-
protocol, it's going to be all over the place.
Okay, but there is another public session for questions after we're finished with the rest of the agenda. We're trying to do this in an orderly way. John, do you have anything else? Bill? Bob? Okay. They're just checking over the questions.
We used the FEMA maps. We did not use the recently adopted DEP maps. DEP mapping is talking about new standards for development within the floodplain. And we did not use, we used the FEMA flood maps. Correct. And if you didn't get a letter, you're not in the overlay. It's that's simple.
Then there was something about density. Harris wanted to know something Chelsea said at the planning board meeting. And then how many, was there a study done on how many block and lots are owner occupied?
Okay. There was a question about was there a study on the block and lots and which is owner occupied and what's rental. In the housing element portion of the housing plan, it talks about the proportions of single family rentals, owners. It gives a breakdown of multifamily. All of that is listed in there. But the overlay zones were working around that. That wasn't germane to the discussion. The Fair Housing Act requires that you have demographics in your document, and that's what we provided.
Was population density of the four wards considered?
The 2014 land. No, we shouldn't address that. Okay.
I can address that if you like.
No.
It's up to the chair.
No,
Well, we're
this is
trying-
Mr. Szabo's time. Come on.
Let him finish. and
The
then-
2014 master plan does not address affordable housing in any way. The 2014 housing element that was prepared by a different firm came about as a result of a settlement through a builder's remedy suit that then turned into a declaratory judgment action that only lasted for 5 years, which is why we're redoing all of this. The city attempted to carry that judgment to the end of this third round, to June 2025, and that was rejected by the courts, my understanding.
Okay.
That was all predate.
That's correct.
All right, so this would be the time that we would, I would ask for a motion.
If I can just, one thing I just wanted to add to give us a little context to this is, during the course of the litigation, the Fair Share Housing Center, which Mr. Szabo mentioned, is mandated to be a party to these actions, and every municipality in the state of New Jersey had to go through this. During litigation, they wanted the entire city to be overlaid, 100%. In addition, they also took the position that our obligation was more like 1,200 affordable units, not the 819 that we came down with. So just to understand where this, it's litigation, it was adverse, it was adversarial. We were days and days of mediation,
More like
which are
months.
confidential per
Months,
the court's
actually.
requirements.
Months.
Okay.
But we were always on a tight leash with the court.
Bob, were there any questions that you wanted to answer?
No, I'm just going through the list. There was just another list.
If I may, what about Howell and Glenbrook?
That was the 305 and 306.
No, something.
No. Howell and Glenbrook, are they in the overlay or not?
Howell is not. A number of units are in the Glenbrook. They're in area 3.
So a portion of Glenbrook.
Portion of Glenbrook, yes. 306, block 306, 15-25. It was a typo there. 15 to 25, those lots.
Okay, can we have a, we're going to do a motion and a second, and then members of the council will be able to make statements and ask questions. Do I have a motion?
I motion that it, or, I motion that ordinance 23-22 be adopted.
All right, do we have a second?
Just go forward.
Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second. Now, members of the council.
Well, you got a second.
Lisa.
Councilwoman Wasatski, second.
Wait a minute.
Now discussion amongst the council.
Now we're opening it up to the
So I
council to
think-
ask.
So, wait, so I think Laura's question, I took notes, was, are we going to fight this out in the courts? And I thought you had answered that, but if you can address that again.
Was the settlement agreed in November of?
Could you
November
restate the
or-
question?
Was the settlement agreed in November or January? Okay, that was a question. We're going to
Okay.
answer that.
Okay, what was the date?
November 1st, 2022. But that had to have been approved by the court, and that didn't happen until January.
Okay.
January 10th.
January 10th, 2023.
No, it's still going.
It's ongoing.
It's still ongoing.
We have a court appearance August 23rd.
Okay. Council members, this is your time. Would anyone on the council like to question this or have a question for Mr. Szabo?
I'd like to be heard.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, the format and the type of government we have is a very different one from other communities. And yet I see mayors fighting this harder in other parts of the county than we appear to be to the public. We have one of the most robust legacies of affordable housing, have addressed it from a position of nobility in the last 6 decades. If you look at Rock Creek, Parkview, King Gardens, we even have new properties in the Actors Fund home that have not been given credit to. It seems here that the medicine is worse than the illness. Some degree of haste and public input, obviously, and notification is at issue. And we know that this hails from problems that we either inherited or got passed through, or a legislature that's sitting dormant while it falls to the laps of municipalities and courts to litigate what you're going to do. So they look at the city of Englewood and they look at us like we're Englewood Cliffs, that we've done nothing, and look at the beautiful diversity of just this chamber and the kind of city that everybody regaled. I want to just add some facts here as well, and some concerns. I requested a legal brief. I'm the mayor of this city, and I didn't get it. I got lots of charts, I got lots of emails, I went to different professionals, and I didn't get it. And that's a concern to me as a lawyer, as the longest-standing mayor of the city, and as somebody who sits countless hours and years, ladies and gentlemen, on my own time to make good decisions. And let me just say this. I trust every member of this council, whether I agree with them or not, that they are, as I, bound as a fiduciary to the city to do the right thing. Whether we agree with the decision or not, I respect their right to do it and the reasons that they come to that conclusion. Some other facts. We're going to be paying a $75,000 legal bill to the Fair Share Housing, as I understand it. The need here, in my opinion, and in the ones that I've been reading about, may not have been calculated in a way that would be beneficial to Englewood residents. We put this calibration on, and we're going to end up getting residents from other communities coming into Englewood. This is no way to regale our seniors or people who may be of modest means as they get older or retire from their jobs. So it's not a benefit for the city of Englewood. We haven't captured and could litigate, as I see it, the credits for what we have done in those other homes that have been refurbished. I had a woman who had breast cancer, and I asked a gentleman who lives in Jerusalem who owns an affordable housing complex if he would do something about it. The next morning he had a crew in there and he moved down all the shelving so that the woman didn't have to lift her arm out of care and love. We have a huge legacy, much more than any other community, and I don't know that it was pushed enough despite the admonitions from the professionals. There may be other ways to satisfy this obligation, and it may be late, but it's never too late in the court. Why not South Van Brunt, South Dean Street? Why pick areas where there are people who feel that somebody will parcel these properties together? All you need is a developer to put half an acre together and they trigger this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken to several developers that have called me in recent days and a week. One developer called me not too far, Ms. Sava, from where you live. He could put up a certain amount of affordable housing units as of right, exceeding lot coverage and height. It happens to be in an overlay zone and an opportunity zone because there are other things that came through the federal government. He said to me, I can get millions of dollars from other resources and build in Englewood. It won't cost me, and it'll be nice. It'll be nice for the developer. It'll be nice for the residents that will live there. God willing, they have good dignity in their lives, but it will have an impact on the residents that has been articulated, but this is as of right. Nothing on the character of the developer, but developers and lawyers and everybody will do what they want. The zoning impracticability of this is also an issue. We had a planning board meeting this past Thursday evening. We had joint meetings with the planning board and the city council. I want to thank Mr. Cobb for insisting on having other meetings so that the public could be aware of this. And we all started this last November under the aegis of litigation, where that cone of silence really goes against the notion of transparency. The planning board came back Thursday and issued a statement this afternoon that this overlay zone is inconsistent with the master plan. It's a 4 or 5 page report. The planning board previously urged the enactment of an affordable housing requirement. The planning board also referred 3 proposed multifamily projects to the council that they investigated, and there was no action taken. The planning board notes that the city's affordable housing have not consistently captured all the affordable housing opportunities, including the Actors Fund home. This is a board that I appoint, and they're very diligent and they're very smart citizens of our city. The overlay is proposing greater heights, more intense densities, and larger development coverage. The master plan has a fundamental objective, too, to maintain the character of neighborhoods by preserving neighborhood character through compatible building types and character-defining features, protecting community character, and so forth. Identifying character of each neighborhood is the first step towards protection. Section 2 of the ordinance that the council wants to pass this evening is inconsistent with the master plan and needs to be further studied with transparency and public input to identify appropriate sites in neighborhoods where the ordinance's worthy objective of achieving housing can be accomplished. Section 3D2 is inconsistent with the master plan. It should be amended to require buffers consistent with our existing zoning. You hear this? Buffers are not adequate. Section 3L4 is inconsistent with the master plan as permitting chain link fencing incompatible with the neighbor character in residential zones. We're going to have chain link fencing in an area that's not permitted. Section 3Q5 reflects that lighting shall be consistent with existing residential lighting in existing neighborhoods. You get a sense, ladies and gentlemen and council, that this is a condition that's in conflict. Now, I came back after retiring after 10 years as your mayor, and I'm back now on finishing my 4th term. And I came back here because of things that soured and things that I wanted to fix. And I am inclined to veto this if it passes this evening. But the council then has the ability to override the veto. And the question here is, what would you do in their seat? What would you do in my seat? Lawyers can always negotiate more. Judges will always allow additional time. And this implementation of something that's noble seems not just hasty, but not appropriate for the character of Englewood. The notice deficiencies, the kind of meetings that we run where we have residents, a historian whose wife is going through a difficult thing left, and I had to text somebody who was kind enough to try to get him back so he could be heard at a microphone, and he talked about a hug that his mayor gave him. We are a community. We are one community. But we're a community that's not going to get people hysterical, that's going to respect its leaders and its authority, and is going to help us make this decision. I am torn based on what I'm hearing, even this evening, from the professionals and the lack of my getting that document as a lawyer. I have 10 days, and I expect to use those. Thank you.
I think I would like to say something. I would like to say categorically, I am not a fan of redevelopment or big buildings or I came onto this council after those buildings, Evo and the town center, all of that had happened already. So I really had no impact or nothing to say about that. But I am totally opposed to it. I love Englewood. I love the character of the streets. I love our housing stock. One of the things that people are attracted to moving in here is because we're not tract housing. You know, all of our houses are different, as well as our citizens. Now, when I was presented with this, which was very soon after I got onto the council, I mean, I'm going to say I found it was very complicated. A lot of the material was something I was not familiar with, you know, and after numerous meetings. And remember, this was in closed session because this was part of litigation. It wasn't as if we were hiding something. We were not permitted to do this out in public. And after numerous presentations, I realized that we had two super competent professionals guiding us, not telling us what to do, but guiding us. And that was Ed Buzak and John Zebo. And if we're paying these people to help us and guide us, and we think we got the best, how could we just not listen to what they're presenting us with? Now, I was in favor of the overlay, the way it was presented, and have been consistently, because I believed we each retained our right to make a decision about whether or not our homes, whether they were under the overlay or over the overlay, whatever it is, we keep our, you want your house? Keep it. Nobody can tell you you've got to get rid of it. We're not, I'm talking about just the overlay. I'm very concerned about builder's remedy. I do not want anybody coming in here. This is bad enough. But if we do not pass this, and we do not get past this third stage, or whatever they call it, I don't want the developers coming in here and having no guidelines, nothing. That is very dangerous and very expensive, because every time they do it, it means we will have a lot of litigation. And Michael, you know I love you, but you are a lawyer, so you may not be as upset about I am about all this litigation and what we would have to fight if we were in a situation where we lost our immunity. What I was hanging my hat on, and as I say, I am not a politician, quite obviously, but I know, thank you. I believe that we were buying time, If we pass this stage, then we have an opportunity to have the time to go over it again and make changes and get more meetings like this going between now and I won't be here, but I hope you all appreciate how rude this fellow is. All I'm saying is, I'm sharing with you what my thoughts are, whether I am a longtime resident of Englewood. I care very deeply about this town. And the thought that we would be in a position of having to go through the courts with one builder's remedy case after another makes me sick. And it will happen. It will happen. I think this whole thing is disgraceful, the fact that the courts have taken this over. Some gentleman got up and talked about no one should be able to tell us what to do in our town, with our property. I totally agree. I totally agree. But as far as I could see, listening to the experts, people that know much more than I believed that the best thing we could do was to get past this round and function in the fourth round, getting it the way we really want it. It'll never be perfect, but at least we'll have a little time to take a deep breath. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Anybody else?
Mr. Wilson.
Kevin?
Good evening. First, giving honor to God. Without him, I wouldn't be here. For those of you who do not know, I am a lifelong resident, and I went through the school system here, and I graduated in 1979 from Dwight Morrow High School. So the Englewood I see before me today is somewhat different. I am here not for myself, but to represent my constituents. I understand that we want a quality of life. I think that's very, very important. I also serve on the planning board as a liaison to the council. And some statements were made that I do not agree with. I am new. This is my freshman year here on the council. Some things have been decided before I got here. When I attended the planning board meeting, we were presented with this, and we were informed that we had to vote that evening. Otherwise, we may suffer from builder's remedy. Now, I don't know much about internet bullying, but I sure know about individual bullying. And it felt to me that we were being bullied by builder's remedy. In this planning board meeting, it was stated, and we voted as a unit, that the 2014 master plan that's still in existence, this particular vote isn't consistent with our master plan. So that means that we do have the ability to change zoning, overlays, and underlays. And litigation is one thing, and I believe in litigation, but I believe that as citizens, you should be afforded the opportunity after litigation to have this information. I think that is very, very important, whether notices are sent out. My personal opinion is that I believe that certain people worked on this for months and months and months. I do not believe that we pushed back hard enough. I don't believe that some of the lines that were created needed to be created. They say that this won't happen. And if in fact that this won't happen, why were we negotiating for something that will not happen? Coming up with a plan was something our planning board lawyers and all those involved should have had a say. And with those individuals having a say, the community should have had a say, because we're here to represent you. And if in fact that system failed you, we need to be better. We need to do better. We need your participation. This is something that we need to see moving forward, so things don't get by and say, how did this build? You go on vacation and they're breaking ground. That's not acceptable. When we say that this is a tough lawyer and look at Englewood Cliffs, I will say this. Through the negotiations and meetings and closed sessions, that a plan was presented. The judge did not give us a remedy. We negotiated a remedy. And if in fact it wasn't sufficient, we should have went back in before the 9th hour, which we're in right now. And it appears that the bully is coming out about this builder's remedy. And if you're in the overlay zone, you don't have to be exposed. I disagree. I think that if you're in the overlay zone, that you need to be concerned. I think it's a real thing, that it's becoming official, and if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been going through litigation, and we wouldn't have been presented it, and we wouldn't be voting on such a horrendous act to the city. So I just ask that you guys stay tuned. We're here, I know I'm here, and I believe everybody else is here for the service of the community. And it needs to be stated, your displeasure, because it can happen. Developers are looming and they want in. So we have to think about the quality of life. And I, for one, I disagree with this proposed agenda.
I think Charles wants to get the last word, so.
Yeah.
Or-
So.
or do you want me to go or you?
No. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? So I'm going to be a matter of fact about it and say, what puts Englewood at risk? If we don't have control of our zoning, for example, there's a property on West Englewood Avenue and Green Street. Many of the residents in that area came out and they fought the developers over that. So they didn't put anything there. That's we have control. That's we have immunity. We lose immunity, they can put the shovel in the ground everywhere. What I'm saying to you, we're not in a good spot, but here's the thing. You need to, everybody needs to ask themselves, how did we get here? Because everybody's danced around that. We got 3 buildings right in a row here on Englewood Avenue. We got zero affordable housing units out of that. If we had got those units, we're probably not even having this conversation. You know what else is interesting? When they put the overlay out, if the overlay would have been just over the 4th Ward, this room wouldn't even be packed. That's a fact. When they were building those buildings out there, nobody came down there hollering about all the development in the 4th Ward. They didn't say a word. Yeah, you were. You were. But what I'm saying to you is that we're talking about this issue here, but what's the root cause of it? When we went to Repose, I believe 1999, somewhere around there, till now, today, we weren't getting any affordable housing. What we should have been doing was managing that and getting affordable housing. That's what should have been happening. So we wouldn't be having this conversation today. Now everybody's mad because the judge, and it's no secret, because the judge and Fair Share Housing are dictating the terms of the agreement. But what we can do, and if we decided to pass this, is put a resolution on the agenda that we get start working on the master plan for 2024. Start doing that, start putting that in there. And then we can start to make those amendments and go back to them and have it the way we want to have it. See, the problem is the horse was already out the barn. Now we're chasing. Now we're chasing, and everybody's fear-mongering, but the words and whatever. But to me, it's all about, are we gonna put the city at risk, or we're not? Or we're gonna take what we have, and we're gonna work to fix it, so we can control the zoning. If we don't control the zoning, it doesn't matter. They'll build everywhere and anywhere. But this is what I always tell people. That's why you gotta participate in your town. That's why you gotta go to these meetings to see what people are saying, what they're doing. Because guess what? We don't do a good job of communicating. So if you're not there, you don't get the information. Listen, just like my colleague, Mr. Wilson over there, I was born and raised here too, 66 years. And I got some skin in the game, big time. So I'm not gonna let nobody hustle Englewood. I take this personally. I take this personally. And then if anybody wants to have that conversation with me, let's have it. I take this personally. I'm not happy about what we got to do. But I can tell you this. If we don't do this, you think development is going rapid and around here before? It will go and it will happen. There are people waiting to build in here. And guess what? It'll be built in certain parts of Englewood, not in all parts of it. And it's not fair to anybody. But I can tell you this. I'm not here to impede anybody's quality of life or anything, because that would hurt my quality of life. But we got to do it right. And a lot of people don't understand. There's a difference between affordable housing and low-income housing, too. They don't talk about all that. But where are we going to build 4,000 units? There's not no room to do that. But the opportunity we have is with this next master plan, and we need to change the name of that to be a comprehensive plan. We need to change that name of that. Right. Listen, whatever you want to call it, other than that. But what I'm saying is, that's when you get everybody to participate. You get everybody from all wards, and you come up with all the issues or concerns you have. Because in the 2014 master plan, we changed the heights. They rezoned to multifamilies. You know, I hear this fear-mongering about the library. We ain't gonna tear no library down. You gotta be kidding me. Well, and this is why I want just people to tell the truth. Let's have at it. Tell the truth about this. This is an unfortunate situation. And somebody said we got a gun to our head. Yeah, absolutely right. I'm not comfortable in making this decision, but you know what? I also know, because like many other people, I've been on the council 9 years, and I've been on the planning board. So I took the land use test, and I know about all those things. If we don't take care of this, they'll be building all over this city. It's unfortunate, but it's what we do next. We can't just take one step and say, oh, this is it. We gotta have a plan, and we gotta engage the public, and the public has to be engaged. And you're right. I did ask for an additional meeting, July 20th, else you wouldn't have had that meeting. And you're right, we should have probably had additional meetings so we could have this conversation, because you're gonna have questions when you leave here. And that's unfortunate. But this whole process is unfortunate. But Judge Farrington is having a meeting on, what's the court, August 23rd? 23rd. And it's open court, right? It's open court. I suggest we go.
It's via Zoom.
Huh? It's on Zoom. It's going to be on Zoom. Huh? Where's Superior? She's in Superior Court North.
Superior Hackensack.
Hackensack. She's in Hackensack, not far away. Huh? Listen. That's her court. That's her court. If we get the information, we can post it on the website. How about that? We'll post it on the website. But this is what I'm saying to you, like, email. Everybody has email. You don't look at a website every week. Listen. It's not you, whoever the I get it, but you know what? We'll do the best we can do. That's what I'll tell you. I mean, you can shut your head and do all that. I'm just bringing you the information. We could do that. Rest give us not now. let me get finished. Let me,
Yeah.
Reverend Higgins, let me finish. But I think it's important that people understand how we got it, what we didn't get when we should have gotten it. They're not taking, we're not in the business of taking anybody's home. We're not doing any of that. But we have to make a tough decision tonight. We have to make a tough decision. And sometimes tough decisions are not the popular decision, but it's the right decision. And that's what happens here. That's what's truly happening here tonight. But I'd like to say that if you have additional questions, you know, you need to ask those questions, and you need to get those answers. You know, that's what I'll say. Madam Chair, there's 2 questions out here. I'd like to answer those questions.
Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I have a statement. That's why we have in our judiciary system the word appeal. Word appeal. We are in the 9th hour. So I stand here tonight, I'll guarantee everybody, if you search statutory, that in the 9th hour we're in, and we drug our feet, even if we have to go to Supreme Court or to the housing in Washington, D.C., it can be appealed. And Englewood do not have the rope around his neck. Trust me on that. Trust me. I challenge you and I challenge you. This appeal can be made. And I'm going home, but this appeal can be made. Don't tell these people you
Wait
can
for me.
You can appeal whatever. Winning is something different. But you can't appeal. And the rope is not run off the neck.
Good night. No.
No.
No. We said that 100 times. No, you can't take, they can't take anything. They can't take, listen, you keep. Listen, I'm on the bridge right over there, that was on Humphrey Street. They can't take your home. You own your home, you pay your taxes. It's gonna be your home and your taxes. I know,
And that's why it's really important that it has to be in layman's terms. I mean, I
Listen.
heard you speak, and I totally understand, but there's a lot of people out there that don't.
I agree with you.
So it has to be where people understand.
No, listen.
Layman's term, even if you have somebody else next to you.
I get it. I said that this was gonna be a problem because of the way it was communicated. I understood that. So what I'm saying is, you know, we have to do a better job at communicating effectively with people, meeting them where they're at, so they can process them.
Oh,
This whole body is going to, the idea is to approve what is being put before us, essentially, if I understand this correctly. And then once you approve, then that's where the fight begins?
The fight continues.
I mean, to me, I would think the fight is a reverse, where it doesn't pass and you fight that. So correct
No,
me
look,
if I'm
if
wrong.
this wasn't to pass, as he said, if this was a no vote, right? And they go to the court and we lose our immunity, then forget about it. Then the builders could come in and build whatever they want, and it supersedes our zoning.
In other words, you're telling us that we have to.
We listen, I don't know what the time, I know the timeline is, the 23rd of the month of August. This is when they'll have court with Judge Farron. I don't know how much time we have in between there to do this again. That, I don't know the calculation, Mr. Bailey.
It'd be impossible to do the notice and everything else. And if I don't want to interrupt you, Councilman Cobb, but I just wanted to quote the appellate division affirming Judge Farrington, our judge in the Englewood Cliffs case, just to know what we're up against. And in that instance, Judge gave Englewood Cliffs 90 days to implement the housing plan, and they didn't do it. So the appellate division, I'm quoting them, the borough refused to comply with the court's orders. It adopted, on April 17, 2020, Judge Farrington issued an order finding the borough in contempt. To compel compliance, the judge voided the borough's zoning ordinances, stripped its planning board of the ability to review land use applications, and appointed a special hearing officer to review development applications. The borough twice sought leave to appeal, but we, the appellate division, denied those motions. So that's what we're up against. And that's the judge we're in front of. So imagine no zoning ordinance in Englewood.
It's scary.
So, yeah, we're gonna just fight for everything lower and to request changes?
No, we go to the next.
Yes, we could go to war because we won't lose our immunity, right? They will agree to that, and if we don't lose our immunity, we can keep fighting. But if we will know and she strips us like that, then there is no fight. There's nothing we can do. We just gotta take it on the chin.
Okay, so
we gotta
Mr.
get-
Cobb, Mr. Cobb, can I say my remarks? All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and thank you for a word well spoken, Mr. Cobb. So no one's talked about their experience, but I was born in an affordable housing project in Brooklyn. When I was 5, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she died when I was 10. So we all know about the enormous financial burden of having a cancer, child care, taking off from work to take relatives to the hospital, the cost of the treatments especially. And I've often wondered, would I have been homeless if it wasn't for affordable housing? Probably not, but I was a kid then. I don't know the exact situations. Eventually, my father got a promotion at work. We moved out of affordable housing. Someone else took the apartment. The system worked. So I'm a big advocate for affordable housing because I feel it saved my life. So we've been talking about the 4,000 units, and people say, I want to give a very concrete example. Down the block from me is Tudor Hall on the corner of Booth and Engle Street. It might be the largest residential unit. It's one of the largest residential units. It's within the overlay zone. Currently, right now, it sits on 2 acres, and it has 86 units in there. So let's say this is redeveloped as part of the overlay zone, what we're going to hopefully pass tonight. By this overlay zone, the density is 35 units per acre, so it'd only be able to build 70 units, and probably less than that because it's kind of weirdly situated. Half the acreage is on the other side of Engle Street. So that's why it's never going to, and that's part of the 4,000. So who's going to tear down a building, buy the building for however gazillion, $50 million, 20 million, I don't know what it would cost. You have to negotiate with every single owner there. Tear it down to build up a smaller replica of it with all the setbacks and to sell it for less. That's why it's never going to happen. And that story is replicated over and over again in the city. We talked about White Street, Pindle Avenue. Those are extremely dense areas right now. They have very dense multifamily housing. If someone goes to redevelop it, it's going to be less dense with this overlay zone. There would be fewer people. So it's not 4,000 additional. We'd end up like 100 fewer units because they'd build less. Tudor Hall's 5 stories. It's only zoned for 4 stories now. That would become smaller if someone wanted to redevelop it. That's why this makes sense, and the 4,000 is not accurate. Mrs. Abel, am I accurate with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We didn't talk about that. So, and if they redid White Street, they'd have to spend $1 gazillion on flood mitigation. It'd be an enormous improvement to that area. And that's why no one's going to invest that amount of capital in it. Let's look at what some surrounding towns have done. We've talked about Englewood Cliffs extensively. I've heard they've already spent $1 million on loft suits fighting the builder's remedy, and that keeps on ticking. We don't want to be there. Teaneck has built their own affordable housing. Leonia has an overlay zone. Tenafly has 5 overlay zones. We haven't heard of any disasters happening there, and I've been searching, trying to find of a situation where a town's character was destroyed, the population increased by 30%, horrible development happened from an overlay zone. I can't find it. I think it simply doesn't happen. There are properties at risk. If there's an empty lot, they are already under enormous pressure for redevelopment. What this ordinance will do is decrease the density that people are fighting for. Like we heard, 300 to 75. That's the power of this ordinance. We've been trying to speak about this within all the confines. I've sent out, I talked about this last year when I was council president. I talked about this at the reorg meeting. I've sent out emails in January and April about what we've been doing with affordable housing. Everyone's inundated with so much information. It's been on social media. Everyone's inundated with so much information. You know, I've been trying to get the word out with that. So the vote tonight is to settle or everything else. So there's no thinking about it, adjourning. We're going to miss the deadline and maybe just hope that the judge doesn't slam us like she's been slamming everyone else. So settle or everything else. And we have to settle it, in my opinion. We can't leave our fate in someone else's hand. There's no delays, there are no appeals. None of those choices are available. This is the only choice. The only people who win, if we don't settle this, are developers, because they're going to love that builder's remedy. I know we've been talking about like it's the boogeyman. It is. It is. Maybe that's the next like scary movie, you know, Builder's Remedy. Halloween 8, the Builder's Remedy. Thank you. So please, Robert, please, Robert. I'm not a developer. I don't represent developers. I represent Englewood. And I'll talk about my personal situation. I wasn't noticed, but I'm 300 feet from the field club. So my my backyard neighbor was noticed because she's they're within 200 feet, but still going to affect me. This is literally, you know, not in my backyard. This is literally in my backyard. I would love it if the field club never gets redeveloped. I don't know what's going to happen there. But if we have builder's remedy, there might be an 8-story building in my backyard. With this, it's zoned for 4 stories. This is what's going to affect me personally. Like we talked about, that's all I got. That's my only interest in Englewood, my house. My in-laws live next door, so it's both of us together there. We need this so I don't have an 8-story building in my backyard. If it does get redeveloped, and you know, and through this mechanism, not much I can do about it. We don't control that property. The field club controls it. It's been talk about redeveloping it since the first day I showed up in the city. Who knows what's going to happen? I hope it stays the field club. I don't belong to the field club, but it seems to be a very enjoyable area, and I hope it stays that way. But my best interest is to not have any of that happen. I completely agree with Councilman Cobb. We need to start the process today, and I urge for a master plan that addresses affordable housing, so we have consistencies. You can't be consistent with affordable housing when the affordable housing's not mentioned in the master plan. How can you be consistent with something that's not there? And I think the council should fund the planning board so they have the necessary planners and lawyers and mechanisms to have all the stakeholders have a say. And I hope we get that done immediately, and so we can move on. And so the rest of 2023, 2024, and when this overlay zone expires, if it's passed tonight on June 30th, 2025, we can move on to the next phase. Talked about when's the fight over. I think it's pretty clear from what we've heard. The fight is actually never going to be over. You know, I'll be not here anymore, who knows when, and whoever follows me and whoever follows then. 2050, there's going to be a fight about affordable housing. 2075. We need affordable housing for people. I think of my 5-year-old self whose life was saved by affordable housing. We need affordable housing for the community so that people have a place when they're in trouble. But we need to do it smart. We need to do it without affecting the character of the town. We need to have control over the process. So I'm voting in favor of the ordinance tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, we're up to the roll call. We're up to roll call.
Okay. We have roll call now, unless there's another.
No, just roll call. Okay, everyone-
No, we'll have public comment in a few minutes, actually.
everyone's had an opportunity to speak. We gotta-
I think
have a whole
the
agenda to get
council
through.
has spoken, and we're ready now for roll call.
Councilwoman Wasatski, did you have any public comments? No.
Sorry, Lisa. Okay, roll call.
Councilman Cobb? Yes. Councilman Rosenzweig?
Yes.
Councilman Wilson?
No.
Councilwoman Wasatski? Council President Marin?
Yes. Okay, we've
So
got.
take a break?
Final
Yes,
count is
we'll take it.
4 yes,
well,
5 minutes,
1 no.
10
Five, let's say 5-minute break. It's
right,
11
thank you.
o'clock, so 11:05, we'll reconvene. It passed.
The vote was completed, the vote passed,
Yes.
4-1.
Onward to the next. 5-minute break.